In 1943, Steve Rogers wanted to serve his country in World War II, but he didn't meet the requirements. Later, Dr. Abraham Erkenstein gives Steve a chance to change the world and join the army. With the doctor's new super serum, he changed Steve's form from a skinny loser to a stronger loser. Then, as he goes and stops a splinter group of the Nazis called Hydra, who's using an Infinity Stone in the Tesseract to make weapons, and stops them with the help of the SSR. And then he crashes into the ocean for really no reason. Almost 70 years later, Captain America wakes up and Nick Fury recruits him for a new initiative he's putting together. A billionaire named Tony Stark makes weapons for the army, then his legal guardian Jeremiah hires a terrorist group named the 10 Rings to kill him. Then a bald guy in a cave saves him by plugging a battery into his heart. When the bald guy dies, Tony Stark burns the weapons they had and he gets away. A few days later, Tony finds out Jeremiah has been selling weapons to the terrorist group, and then goes and blows them up. Then Tony and Jeremiah have a little fight, Jeremiah makes a new suit, and they have a bigger fight. Then Tony Stark kills him and then tells the world he is Iron Man. Later that night, Nick Fury goes to Tony Stark's house and recruits him for a new initiative he is making with S.H.I.E.L.D. Bruce Banner is a scientist and uses gamma radiation to turn himself into the Hulk, wrecks the lab, and almost kills his girlfriend, who is also General Ross's daughter. Now he's on the run while he's trying to fix his problem. Later, the General makes a new super soldier who wants more power. And as Bruce Banner fixes his problem, the super soldier wants more power and becomes the Abomination. Then, after the Hulk and New Hulk fight, Hulk wins and is on the run for some reason. Later, Tony Stark meets up with General Ross and tells them he would like to hire Hulk for a new initiative. Thor's the next king of Asgard, but his little brother Loki doesn't like that. So he tells the Frost Giants how to break into the Asgardian vault. Later, the Frost Giant goes and tries to steal the casket, but a destroyer finds him and destroys the Frost Giant. Thor, seeing that a Frost Giant can break into the vault, thinks, I should go start a war with him, and so he does. Odin then sees him unworthy of being king and sends him and Mjolnir to Earth. Mjolnir will only come to Thor whenever he sees him worthy. Both Thor and Mjolnir land in New Mexico and meet up with a group of scientists. Later, Loki takes the throne and sends a destroyer to kill Thor. Thor tries to sacrifice himself to protect the humans. Mjolnir sees him worthy again, goes to Thor, and Thor destroys the destroyer. Then, Thor goes to Asgard to see what Loki's up to. The Frost Giants come and tries to destroy Asgard. Thor and Loki team up by the power of adoption. Then, Thor breaks the bridge to stop the giants from coming, and Loki dies. Also, Thor breaks the Rainbow Bridge. When Director Fury starts a new project named the Pegasus Project using the Tesseract to open the portal, Loki breaks in with a new assignment given to him by Thanos. By using the scepter, he takes Professor Eric Selvig and Hawkeye. Nick Fury then decides to put a new team together he's been planning to use for a while now. Loki plans to use the Tesseract to open a portal over New York to bring the army of Chitauri. The Avengers learn of this plan and try to stop Loki. This fails and the portal opens. S.H.I.E.L.D., with no other option, plans to launch a nuke over New York, and they do. But Iron Man takes the missile and redirects it over to the portal. This ends the Battle of New York. The Ether is an ancient artifact that holds the Reality Gem. After thousands of years, the Dark Elves come back through the alignment of the 9 realms to take the Ether. Later, Dr. Jane Foster finds the Ether and fuses it with her. Later, the leader of the Dark Elves, Malekith, senses this and attacks Asgard. Thor's mom died, and now it is personal. Later, in London, Thor and Malekith fight. Thor wins, and Loki dies again. Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. for the past few years now, and they now break down S.H.I.E.L.D. from the inside. Cap also finds out Hydra's secret agent, the Winter Soldier, is actually his old friend Bucky. Later, Nick Fury finds out about Hydra and is later presumed dead. Cap is now a fugitive with Natasha Yar with him. Later, Cap figures out Hydra's plan to actually eliminate any threats to Hydra. Later, Cap and Bucky meet up on a helicarrier and get into an argument. Bucky then remembers Cap and almost dies, but Bucky saves him. Peter Quill is looking for an artifact called the Orb. After he finds it, he tries to sell it. There, he meets Gamora, Rocket, and Groot, who all want the Orb. Then they get arrested. Later, in prison, they meet Drax and escape. Later, they find the Collector, who tells them that the Orb holds an Infinity Stone. Then the place blows up. Later, Ronan gets orders from Thanos to take this stone and give it to him. Later, Ronan gets the stone and attempts to destroy Xandar against Thanos' orders. But the Guardians stop him with a dance-off. The Avengers find a Hydra base in Sokovia. There, they meet Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, or Petro and Wanda. Wanda gives Tony a vision of a fake future, and he then thinks of a way to keep the world safe with Ultron. Later, with the help of Bruce Banner, they make Ultron, who then tries to kill everyone. Later, Ultron gets Petro and Wanda to help him destroy the world with Sokovia. and then tries to make Vibranium body. Later, the Avengers get the body before Ultron can finish it. Then they disagree if they should destroy it or use it to fight Ultron. Then Thor comes in and has him fight Ultron. They name him Vision and stop Ultron. After the fight, Bruce Banner leaves. Hank Pym creates a new suit that can shrink anyone down to the size of an ant, after his wife dies and he retires. But several years later, a man who I honestly don't remember the name of, learns of this and tries to make a suit for the military. Then Hank Pym gets a thief named Scott Lang to be the next Ant-Man. Later, Hank Pym learns that the villain who... What was his real name? Darren Cross makes a new suit called the Yellow Jacket, and Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket get into a fight, Ant-Man wins, and Scott Lang gets his family back. After a government meeting gets bombed, General Ross comes to the Avengers to tell them the government does not like heroes who just do what they want. So they come up with the Sokovia Accords, which strips the Avengers of their powers until they're needed. Captain America does not like this, so him, Bucky, Hawkeye, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Ant-Man go on strike. Tony Stark realizes all the damage they have done, so him, Black Widow, Vision, War Machine, Black Panther, and Spider-Man all come together to try to get Cap on board. After a big fight in an airport, everyone on Cap's team gets arrested except for him and Bucky. When they all go to Siberia, and there they learn Bucky killed Tony's parents, so he tries to kill him. After the fight, Cap runs away, but tells Tony he'll be there whenever the world needs him. Dr. Stephen Strange gets into a car crash and loses his hands. Then he starts looking all throughout science to fix his hands. He then gets so desperate he turns to magic. After he learns about a place called Ramatage and meets a bald monk who teaches him about magic, and then he steals an artifact. He then learns that the bald monk has been getting power from the Dark Dimension. Then she goes and tries to fight Oliver, an old student of hers, who is trying to bring back Dormammu from the Dark Dimension. But of course, that will destroy the world. And then the bald monk dies in the process. After this, Strange goes with the Librarian and a few others to stop Oliver. But after they fail, so Strange goes to sets a time loop and annoys Dormammu till it goes away. And now Doctor Strange becomes the new bald monk. Except he's not bald. The Guardians help the Sovereign defeat a space worm thing to get Nebula, and then they steal some batteries. The Sovereign get mad at this and try to kill them, but before they can, Peter's dad comes and saves them. Ego, Peter's dad, wants him to come back with him to this planet. So he does, and leaves Rocket to fix the ship with Nebula. Meanwhile, Yondu gets fired from the Ravagers, then his whole crew commits mutiny, and find Rocket and Nebula. They take them and later escape, to go help Peter. Later, Ego tells Peter he killed his mom, and of course he's angry. And then they all get into a fight. Rocket shows up, and so does Sovereign, and now it's a three-way war. After Peter wins, they blow up the Sovereign, and they all move on. After the whole Civil War phase, Peter is waiting to be an Avenger, but Tony doesn't think he's ready. So Peter goes on living in high school. Back in the first Avengers, a city cleanup crew are trying to clean up New York after the Battle of New York. But S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in and stops them. So the head of the crew, angry at this, keeps what they have and becomes a weapons manufacturer. Later, after Tony gives Peter a new suit, Peter finds out about what the weapon trades guy and tries to stop them once. Tries. So Tony bans Peter from being Spider-Man, but since he's a high schooler, he ignores him, and later he finds out that the head of the crew, Vulture, is his girlfriend's dad. But after a fight on a S.H.I.E.L.D. plane, Peter stops Vulture, and Tony offers Peter a spot on the Avengers, but Peter refuses. Thor stops Surtur, the King of Fire, and when he returns home to Asgard, he learns that Loki is alive, again, and is impersonating Odin. Thor gets Loki to take him to Odin, which is a retirement home, but the building is demolished. Then Doctor Strange takes Thor and explains to Thor that Loki is a threat to Earth, but Thor explains their situation, and the Doctor Strange takes them to Odin. After Odin dies Kung Fu Panda style, telling Thor he needs to be the next king of Asgard, Thor's sister Hela comes to take over Asgard, and sends Thor and Loki to another planet. Here, Thor is forced to fight in a gladiator battle, and his first fight is with Hulk. After Hulk wins with some effort, Thor goes to Hulk's prison cell to try to convince him to go back to Asgard. But he likes to fight on this planet, and he even made a friend named Valkyrie. Later, Thor turns Hulk back into Bruce Banner, and takes Loki and Valkyrie with him back to Asgard. Back on Asgard, they all fight Hela, but she's too strong. So instead, Thor releases Surtur to destroy Asgard. All the people of Asgard escape for a new planet. When T'Challa learns of Klaw, the only man to see Wakanda and leave, he goes to Korea to get him there. There, he finds out that the CIA is also there to make a deal. After a fight, the CIA takes custody of Claw, but a man named Eric Killmonger breaks him out and severely injures Agent Ross of the CIA. Later, Ross wakes up in Wakanda, amazed by how advanced it is. Later, Eric comes to be the next king of Wakanda because he is actually a Wakandan and cousin to T'Challa. After a fight, Eric wins, and T'Challa dies. Eric is the new king, and the first order of business is to start a war with the world. Later, T'Challa's sister and mom go to the Wakanda's rivals, M'Baku, and it turns out they found T'Challa's in a river and saves him. Then Wakanda has a civil war of their own, and T'Challa kills Eric. But T'Challa sees what Eric was doing and does it the right way, and a few days later opens all of Wakanda's knowledge to the world.